Oh, straight into the roof of the net. Nice one. Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams here today.
Hi and welcome to Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. Sport is all about passion, aggression, attitude. Emotions are always running high, and that is not just on the field between the players, but most certainly off it too. And that's why today's show is to the fervent frenzy fans, in an attempt to say that while it is great to wear your heart on your sleeves, maybe take a step back each time to reflect and take every result with a pinch of salt. So on the show today, why does it hurt to see Australia win? Also, the biggest brawl in a World Cup qualifier sees Brazil and Argentina locking horns, throwing punches, with Messi staging a walkout and Martinez coming to fistfights. And what is ever wrong with Prime Minister Narendra Modi meeting Team India in their dressing room? That and more on the show, but before that, let's take a look at all the headlines from the world of sports in Sports 360. The International Cricket Council, or the ICC, has banned transgender players from participating in women's cricket at the international level. ICC says the decision was made to protect the integrity of the international women's game and the safety of players. The ban applies to transgender players who went through male puberty regardless of whether they underwent gender reassignment treatment. Former captain Gautam Gambhir returns to his Indian Premier League team, the Kolkata Knight Riders. Gambhir has accepted to take on the mentor's role for the IPL side. He will join the Knight Riders for the 2024 IPL tournament. Gambhir has previously played for the Knight Riders from 2011 to 2017. During that phase, Knight Riders qualified for IPL playoffs 5 times and won the trophy twice. Wales drew 1-1 with Turkey in last night's Euro 2024 qualifier. Nico Williams scored early for Wales in the 7th minute. In the second half, Turkey equalised on a penalty from Yusuf Yaziki. With the draw, Wales have missed out on another chance for qualifying for Euro 2024. They are 1 win away from making it to the big tournament with 3 spots still remaining. Turkey have already qualified. In badminton, India's HS Pranoy advanced to the second round at the China Masters. The tournament is being played in the Chinese city of Shenzhen. World number 8 Pranoy beat world number 12 Chu Tien-chen 21-18, 22-20 in straight sets. The Indian shuttler will next be seen in action tomorrow. India's Pankaj Advani clinched the World Billiards Championship title last night. The tournament was played in Qatar's capital, Doha. Advani outplayed compatriot Saurav Kothari with a score of 1,000 to 416. With the win, Advani has now clinched a record 26th world title in billiards. All right, now the FIFA 2026 World Cup qualifiers are in full swing. Players are taking a break from playing club football to join their national squads. Though the World Cup is still almost 2 years away, it has already generated a lot of buzz among football fans, maybe even more than what one would imagine. You see, football is the most watched sport worldwide. In some nations, it is seen almost like a religion. The sport has the biggest following in Africa and South America. Fans getting over-emotional and passionate is a common sight in South America. The continent is known for its emotionally charged fans. In the past, fans have started riots, threatened match officials, and even ordered hit jobs against players and referees on claims that they deliberately made their team lose. Yes, that's right. Players and referees in South America have lost their lives due to an angry crowd. Clearly, the fans take the sport to their heart, and it showed when defending champions Argentina played Brazil earlier today. The match was played in a jam-packed Maracanã Stadium in the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro. Everything was going well when the players were doing their warm-ups. After changing into game attire, the players returned to the field to sing their respective national anthems. The match was just 5 minutes from kickoff when a massive fight broke out in the stands. Videos doing the rounds on social media showed a fist fight involving no less than 100 fans. Shirts were torn. There was a lot of kicking, shoving around, and stomping. Punches were being thrown left, right and center. It looked more like the scenes from the movie Gladiator rather than a football World Cup qualifier. And it didn't just stop here. After the fight broke out, Brazilian police officials rushed into the stands. But instead of breaking apart the fights, the police officials charged the stands occupied by Argentinian fans and hit them with batons and sticks. The brutality really shook the football players. Argentine captain Lionel Messi was the first to show his anger. He instantly flagged it with the FIFA officials and stormed out of the ground along with his team. Naturally, Messi's teammates followed the order of their captain. Well, all but Emi Martinez, the star goalkeeper of Argentina, whose heroics won them the 2022 World Cup. Messi and his team rushed into the locker room, but Martinez had other plans. He sprinted in the other direction toward the fans and tried to leap into the stands. Martinez was seen trying to shove police officials who were attacking Argentinian fans. Martinez managed to get a hold of one of the batons before his teammates dragged him away. Eventually, the tempers cooled down a bit, and after a half-hour delay, the match began. The first half was scoreless and players kept their game clean. In the second half, though, Nicolas Otamendi scored on a header in the 63rd minute to give Argentina the lead. But the friction from before the match was still present. In the 81st minute, Brazil's Hulinton was handed a direct red card for recklessly shoving Argentina's Rodrigo de Paul to the ground. Once the final whistle was sounded, the handshakes between the two teams was cold. Now here's what Argentina's coach had to say about the match.
Beyond the match, I don't know which words to use. I don't know which word because I don't want to be rude. But it's very ugly to see that happen. Whether it's an Argentinian or a Brazilian, it's very ugly. And some of our players had family there. They didn't know if they were there. To play a match in these conditions was difficult.
However, the Brazilian coach slyly put the blame on the fans, asking them to be more mindful of what they chant.
It's regrettable, and we hope that the fans will be more understanding about coming to the stadium to cheer, that the public authorities will also take care of these situations, that they can act preventively so that scenes like the ones that happened today don't happen. Fans are passionate. They want us to win, so they have the right to boo. I think shouting Ole for Argentina is a bit too much, but booing, being annoyed with the team because they are not winning, is extremely understandable.
Clearly, Argentina feels Brazilian officials acted out, while Brazil feels that it was Argentinian fans that instigated the fight. Either way, this is not going away anytime soon, and it looks like one of the biggest football rivalries is back to the forefront. Thankfully, Brazil and Argentina are not poised to play against each other until March 2025. Hopefully by then, the tempers will simmer down. Now, passion is the biggest driving force in sports, we know it. It is the main ingredient in every narrative, particularly rivalries. This Cricket World Cup has stitched yet another chapter in the India-Australia rivalry, which made me think about how and why this rivalry has overtaken that of the India-Pakistan contest. The rivalry with Pakistan stems from, of course, our shared political history and the baggage of the past, but what about the one with Australia? The obvious and more superficial answer to that would be just the stardom and talent on both sides. A riveting contest between bat and ball can always spur rivalries. But that's just not it. Shane Warne versus Sachin Tendulkar, for example, turned into one of the warmest friendships in years to come. Here's what I think. It's just the Aussie way that can get under the skin of any opponent, in this case, India. Australia is known for its mental toughness. They are a side that sledges, taunts and pokes opponents. Play mind games to get under their skin. Their unsaid underlying motto is win at any cost.
Yeah, generally Australian teams are very passionate about playing for Australia. Like most countries, prepare very well for every single game. Very competitive teams. You know, we love to win. You know, that's part of our sort of DNA. And then, yeah, just sort of always seem to have a great camaraderie around the group as well. Everyone seems to get on really well. And are moving in the same direction. So I certainly see a lot of those traits in this current team as well.
Now, just like West Indies were a massive force in cricket in the 70s and the 80s, Australia rose to supremacy in the 90s and early 2000s and continued that legacy that they've created. And every captain had that steely swagger and that sharp-tongued demeanour about them. They never minced words while engaging in a contest. You always think twice before you taunt an opponent because there is always a chance that it will backfire. Aussies do not think that way. They know and believe that it won't, and it'll pay off. They are brash, in your face, and never hold it back. And they follow up the words or the threat with action, whether it was Steve Waugh or Michael Clarke, Ricky Ponting or even Pat Cummins. When Herschel Gibbs, for example, dropped that catch of Steve Waugh at the World Cup, Waugh said, "You've dropped the World Cup," and proceeded to demonstrate just that. Here's what Pat Cummins says at a pre-match press conference right before the World Cup final.
Yeah, I think you've got to embrace it. The crowd's obviously going to be very one-sided. But in sport, there's nothing more satisfying than hearing a big crowd go silent. And that's the aim for us tomorrow. You've just got to embrace every part of a final. In the lead-up, there's going to be noise and more people and interest. And you just can't get overwhelmed. You got to pay up for it. You got to love it. And just, whatever happens, it's fine. But you just got to finish a day with no regrets.
And goes ahead and manages to do just that. There's a reason former India skipper MS Dhoni had said in a dressing room that the way to counter the Aussie attitude was by getting under their skin and playing on their ego.
I remember once, just before the 2015 World Cup semi-final, I remember Talat Dhoni once telling the team in one of those talks that when you play against the Aussies, you have to play against their ego. You have to make them play on their ego. That is something which we spoke about.
Wise words, as that is what Aussies love to do. So maybe the best medicine is to give back what you exactly get. But it isn't just about the fierce war of words, the intensity, and following that up with their great skill and performances on the field. They are the neighborhood thug. They will steal the candy from the kid and smile right back afterwards. This picture of Mitchell Marsh posing with his feet propped up on the World Cup trophy went viral. They were understandably over the moon with the victory, but that picture didn't go down too well with the Indian fans. He was trolled and abused for his arrogant display of having won a World Cup. And it is in the nature of Marsh and many other Aussie male cricketers to make bold and seemingly foot-in-the-mouth statements like this one before the World Cup.
Australia will stay undefeated, defeating India in the final. Australia 452-2 in the final, India all out at 65.
The only difference is that they actually did that. So it isn't an empty, bland joke now because they actually executed it. They won the World Cup and beat India too. Probably not quite in the manner Marsh said they would. But it is this rogue, seemingly rowdy attitude that possibly always irks Indian fans. The players, a little bit, but more so the fans. You always like a humble winner, especially when they've beaten you. It's probably in your nature, in the psyche. So winners who flaunt it more just don't sit all too well. And Australia can seem to be that high school bully when it comes to displaying aggression on the field or even while celebrating a win afterwards. We all remember this. It was the Champions Trophy win in India and it hurt. But just watch how Ricky Ponting irreverently indicates the then BCCI President Sharad Pawar to stop the fuss and just hand over the trophy. Damon Martin goes ahead and gently shoves them off the dais and the Aussies go and celebrate the win. Now the IPL has meant some bonds between players of the two countries, but some come national duty and the stars and the stares and glares will be back. Like when India and Australia play each other again in a T20 series starting 23rd of this month. For fans, revenge will definitely be on the cards, even though the players and the teams themselves will be different because Indian fans just don't like seeing an Aussie team beat their own side. And while that is a fair emotion to feel and in that it's okay to feel disgruntled by this, maybe it would be good to not turn it into hatred of any kind. Because after all, in sport, if one wins, the other has to lose. Aussies love to incite this feeling in the opposition, so it would be good to try to counter it instead of feeling the hatred. Now, India's loss at the ODI World Cup final remains fresh in many hearts, but the compassion and love that Indian fans have shared towards the team is heartwarming, including Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who spent some one-on-one time with the men in blue post-match. The first time that India saw a sitting Prime Minister enter the men's cricket team's dressing room. The mood was gloomy. Prime Minister Modi knew that, so he just tried his best to cheer up the dull faces. A sweet gesture to show the men in blue that the nation was proud of them, irrespective of the loss. And Indian fans loved the Prime Minister's gesture. Sports have rarely been given the spotlight from India's political brass. It's usually the norm to keep sports and politics strictly on parallel lanes. But Prime Minister Modi's act has been given too much political focus. The Prime Minister was already attending the match. After India's loss, he met the team to comfort and console them. Had he not done that, he would have gotten flack too. It's almost like people are edging to find faults. But one thing is for sure, it takes heart for leaders to meet players of their country who've lost a big match. And it should be taken in great spirit that India's Prime Minister is heavily invested in sports and the sportspersons of this country.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's interaction with the Indian team after the ODI World Cup loss has attracted a lot of political talk and debate. Instead of appreciating the actions of the Prime Minister, criticisms are being thrown for his actions, and some are calling it showmanship. Even some former Indian cricketers are voicing their opinion. Here's what Kirti Azad, politician and a member of India's 1983 World Cup winning squad, had to say.
The dressing room is the sanctum sanctorum of any team. ICC does not allow anybody to enter these rooms apart from the players and the support staff. PM of India should have met the team outside the dressing room in the private visitors area. I say this as a sportsman and not as a politician.
Other opposition party members too took to social media to criticize the Prime Minister, calling his interaction and pep talk with the men in blue as quote-unquote uncomfortable. The Prime Minister's interaction with the Indian team came when they were mentally at their lowest point. It was meant to be a gesture to show support and appreciate their journey in the World Cup. And among the political backlash the Prime Minister got, his actions were applauded by retired cricketers in Pakistan. Here's what Pakistan's fast bowler Shoaib Akhtar had to say.
Your Prime Minister gave a clear message that he is there with the players. It was a huge gesture. This was a message that India as a nation is standing with the Indian cricket team. As simple as that. This is a really emotional time for them. He took the players as his children, as kids, and he lifted their morale to tell them that they played well. This was a great gesture by the Prime Minister.
It looks like the opinion on Prime Minister Modi's locker room visit has divided opinions in the cricket world. But is it fair to criticize the Prime Minister's actions? He's the leader of the nation that was hosting the ODI World Cup. He met the players after the post-match ceremony was over. The International Cricket Council has no say in what a team does after that in their locker room. And it's not just cricket's world bodies that practice this. And this isn't the first time either that a world leader met players after a loss or a win. The most recent example was French President Emmanuel Macron, who consoled the French football team after they lost to Argentina in the 2022 World Cup final. Former American President Barack Obama would frequently meet basketball and NFL players. He would often even join practice sessions and play basketball with the US Olympic team. Russian President Vladimir Putin too has a lot of interest in sports. He has been regularly seen playing ice hockey with Russia's national team. Putin also frequently met judo and martial arts players who represented Russia. This shows that it's not new for world leaders to meet players after matches. Macron, Obama and Putin have done it. So have many others. Prime Minister Modi's act to visit and console the team should be seen in a similar light. It's a leader's appreciation for the Indian team's effort when they were feeling desolate and sad. Nothing more and nothing less.
That's all the time we have in today's show. But before we leave, time for our parting shot. We call this the last serve. Here's Team Australia arriving in their homeland after scoring a stunning World Cup victory. But the welcome looked anything but that.
Hi mate, how you going? Hi, how are you, sir? Yeah, you good? Very good. Do you want me to take over from you? No, it's alright. How are you? Hey guys, how are you? Morning. Hi mate.
Quite an underwhelming response that, but that about does it here on First Sports today. We hope you enjoyed this one. I'll see you again tomorrow. Till then, of course, bye-bye.